I'm going to explain and break down why the Philadelphia Eagles are better equipped to take down the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59 compared to Super Bowl 57, as this game, it's going down in New Orleans in a couple of Sundays. I think this Eagles roster in general is much more talented this season as compared to last year. There's also the experience factor on both sides of the ball, and I think in all three phases, Philadelphia is better. I think Nick Sirianni can make the necessary adjustments and learn from what he didn't do well in the lead up to Super Bowl 57 and during that game. And I think when you canvass this Philadelphia Eagles roster, they are just in a better position to end that Chiefs three-peat against Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Steve Spagnuolo, and Chris Jones. Specifically on the defensive side of the ball, I think the Eagles defense is better. And that's really what it comes down to, right? And obviously that team a couple of years ago didn't have Saquon Barkley on the offensive side of the ball. And I don't think that offensive line was as good then as it is now, even though you take away Jason Kelce, you replace him with Cam Jurgens. I just think this Eagles roster from top to bottom is much better. But with this Eagles defense, I'd take Vic Fangio over Jonathan Gannon any day of the week, and again on Sunday. He is one of the top defensive minds in the history of the NFL, and Jonathan Gannon was pantsed by Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes a couple of years ago in Arizona. This Eagles defense this year is also the number one overall defense in the National Football League. They are sound at all three levels. They are much more well-coached. Vic Fangio has done a great job of putting players in a position to succeed and maximizing his playmakers. Philadelphia gave up 38 points against Kansas City 2 years ago. I don't think there's any chance that they give up that many points in this game. And so the Eagles' offense scored 35 points against Kansas City in Super Bowl 57. You do that again this year, I think the Eagles are victorious. I think we see another Lombardi trophy coming back to Philadelphia in another parade down Broad Street. This Eagles defense also produces a ton of turnovers. And even though Philadelphia 2 years ago had 70 sacks, 15 more than any team, I just think that this Eagles defense is better off in every area. They do a better job of stopping the run. They can still rush the quarterback even though those sack numbers are down. Most importantly, though, this Eagles defense this year is younger, faster, and much more athletic. Compare the Super Bowl 57 defensive line to the Super Bowl 59 defensive line. Remember going into the trade deadline, how Howie Roseman picked up, made moves for Robert Quinn, and then signed Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph? That Super Bowl 57 defensive line featured Fletcher Cox at 32 years old, still a great player at that time, Ndamukong Suh at 36, Linval Joseph at 34, Haason Reddick at 28, and Javon Hargrave at 30. They had no sacks of Patrick Mahomes in that game. This defensive line this year, Jalen Carter might be the best defensive player on the planet, and he's so disruptive. He's only 23, much more agile, explosive, powerful, strong, and better than any of the defensive linemen on that Eagles team 2 years ago. Milton Williams is a dog. He's only 25. Jordan Davis is 25. Nolan Smith has set a franchise record for 4 sacks in the playoffs for Philadelphia. It's been awesome. So twitchy coming off that edge spot. And Joe Thuney is a big question mark for the Chiefs at left tackle. And then you have Moro Ojomo at 23 years old. That's not including Josh Sweat either, who's also a very good player, who was, of course, on that team a couple of years ago. After Super Bowl 57, when Philadelphia lost, Howie Roseman specifically talked about this. And it led to what the Eagles have done the last 2 years, rebuilding this defense and reconstructing it. Philadelphia got burned by Patrick Mahomes using his legs. That is still a threat this year. But Howie wanted to bring in younger players who were faster and more athletic to get players who could chase Patrick Mahomes down on some of those runs. They didn't have the players to do that a couple of years ago, but also to stop the run and pressure the quarterback. And then you take a look at the Super Bowl 59 defensive back room as compared to the secondary 2 years ago. James Bradbury and Darius Slay were both all pros. Bradbury was 29, Slay was 32. But I'd take Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay this year over that cornerback tandem 2 years ago. How about the upgrade in the slot? You go from Avonte Maddox to Cooper DeJean at 21, who can guard multiple positions. He could be a part of some blitz calls. He's so good against the run and is so much better in coverage as compared to Maddox. Reed Blankenship is a better safety than Marcus Epps, and he's younger, and you have a more experienced player in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who a couple of years ago was new to playing the safety spot. Now he's improved, more experienced, and he's the heartbeat of that back end. And so this Eagles secondary is also so much better compared to that team a couple of years ago. And this Eagles linebacking core, led by Zach Bond, is better than the linebacking core from 2 years ago when TJ Edwards and Kaiser White were the starting backers. So the Eagles starting defense in Super Bowl 57, Josh Sweat, Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Linval Joseph, Haason Reddick, TJ Edwards, Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, CJ Gardner-Johnson, and Marcus Epps. The projected starters for Super Bowl 59, Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Zach Bond, Oren Burks, Darius Slay, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, CJ Gardner-Johnson, and Reed Blankenship. All of those guys highlighted in neon green are new starters this year compared to the 2022 season. And so I think this is really good news and a good development and a good sign for this Eagles team in their quest to end the Chiefs' three-peat. And I also think that Chiefs offense was a little bit better production-wise and talent-wise compared to what they offer this year. Their wide receiver talent, it is very average. They can't generate explosive throws downfield or explosive runs. Isaiah Pacheco's still working off the effects of that ankle injury. Kareem Hunt was getting a lot of the carries in the AFC Championship game. Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy are very fast. But outside of that, Juju Smith-Schuster is much older now. And Travis Kelce is a little bit older, but that is a big matchup to watch. Him against Zach Bond, him against Oren Burks. Especially after Zach Ertz really had his way against this Eagles team in the NFC Championship game. So some thoughts there. If you made it to the end of the show, you're still watching and you're still hanging out, that means that you're a real one. Type real one down in the comment section right now. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. Great Super Bowl coverage to come this week and next week in the lead up to the big game.